Nicknamed the Crossroads of the West, Salt Lake City is one of the country's most beautiful cities. With the recent addition of an NHL team, it also seems to be a city on the rise with an elevating national reputation. Having grown up in Idaho, I've spent a lot of time in Salt Lake City over the years and have been looking forward to making this video. In this series, I briefly cover a city's history, population, skyline, as well as a few things that make the city unique. Now let's meet Salt Lake City. I always like to start by exploring how a city wound up being where it is today, and Salt Lake City's origin story is truly unlike any major city in the country. Most cities in the country, and the world for that matter, are located at break and bulk points, which are geographic locations such as a sea or river port where goods are transferred from one mode of transportation to another. Salt Lake City is unique in that it isn't necessarily there for any practical reason. Instead, it exists because the Mormon prophet Brigham Young, upon arriving in the desert valley in 1847, declared, "This is the place." The Mormons, or more accurately the members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, were looking for a region where they could practice their religion freely without worrying about mobs or persecution. Upon arriving in the Salt Lake Valley, the prophet Brigham Young felt inspired that this was the place they would settle, and that very day they started tilling the soil and planting crops in what was an arid desert. Within a few days, they had drawn up plans for Great Salt Lake City, which was named after the large saltwater lake across the desert from the city. Over the years, the city grew due to immigration of international members of the church, and this growth was accelerated with the completion of the first transcontinental railroad near the city. The city has grown significantly since then, and today has a population of 209,000. If you've watched other videos of mine, you'll know that I think a city's metro population is a better indicator of its true size, and Salt Lake City has a metro population just shy of 1.3 million. This makes it the 46th largest metro in the country, being just smaller than Memphis, Tennessee, and just larger than Birmingham, Alabama. Some of the most recognizable companies located in Salt Lake City include Traeger Grills, Black Rifle Coffee, Avalanche Software, and Deseret News. Just to the south of the Salt Lake City metro is a burgeoning tech hub known as Silicon Slopes, which has brought tremendous growth to the region. The city has 15 different colleges and universities in the area, the most notable being the University of Utah. Call me shallow, but when it comes to cities, I think appearances matter. Salt Lake City is a beautiful city largely due to the mountains, whereas its skyline is rather mediocre. The city is experiencing a building boom right now, and that's certainly leveling up its cityscape. If you took the average height of the city's tallest 5 buildings, Salt Lake City would be ranked as the 48th tallest skyline in the country, being shorter than Orlando, Florida, and just taller than St. Paul, Minnesota. The tallest building in the city is the new Astra Tower at 450 feet, but if you were viewing the entire skyline, you might think the tallest building was the 420-foot LDS Church office building, due to it being built at a higher elevation. One of the nice features of the skyline is the beautiful state capitol building sitting on the hill just above the city. I made a video recently ranking the best state capitol buildings in the country, and I placed Utah's Capitol in the 8th spot on that list. Considering the city's unique history, it shouldn't come as a surprise that a lot of what makes the city unique is associated with the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The primary symbol of the city is the Salt Lake Temple. This temple is a true work of craftsmanship, and it took 40 years to complete. At 250,000 square feet, it is the largest LDS temple by floor area and is arguably the most significant. It is located in the heart of downtown in what is called Temple Square, where there are several other unique buildings, including the Tabernacle, which is the home of the famous Tabernacle Choir at Temple Square, formerly known as the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. Across the street to the north is the Conference Center, which is objectively one of the most fascinating buildings in the country. The Conference Center contains the largest theater-style auditorium ever built. It seats 21,000, but having been there myself, I can confidently say that even that number doesn't do justice to just how large the space feels. The pipe organ itself is one of the most incredible pipe organs in the country, with some pipes being 5 stories tall. The roof of the building has a garden, which, given the building's immense size, has to be one of the largest rooftop gardens in the country. Across the street to the south of Temple Square is the City Creek Center Mall. I was surprised to find a mall like this in a city the size of Salt Lake City. It is a large, modern mall with fountains and a creek running throughout. I would consider it to be a world-class mall. Another fascinating building is the City-County building. If the Salt Lake Temple didn't exist, this would likely be the physical symbol of the city. I love its Richardsonian Romanesque architecture and its large clock tower. Something worth mentioning about Salt Lake City itself is the peculiar way it is laid out. The city has massive city blocks and the widest streets of any city in the country. The streets are 132 feet wide, which give plenty of room to add additional transit lanes. Down one of those wide streets to the west of Temple Square is the Delta Center, which has been the home of the Utah Jazz and recently became the new home of an NHL team. The new owner of these teams is Ryan Smith, who's working to improve the stadium and that section of downtown. No city of Salt Lake's size in the country has a backdrop to it as beautiful as Salt Lake City does. People think of Denver as being by the mountains, when in reality it's much further from the mountains than Salt Lake City is. The mountains provide lots of outdoor opportunities, most notably skiing, where they claim to have the best snow on Earth. The proximity to the mountains also led to Salt Lake City hosting the 2002 Winter Olympics, and the city is being considered to host the games again in the future. The last thing I'll mention is that just to the southwest of the Salt Lake City Metro is the deepest open pit mine in the world. The mine is 1,210 meters deep, which is equal to the combined heights of the Empire State Building and the Burj Khalifa. The Kennecott Copper Mine has produced more copper than any mine in history and is one of the most fascinating things to see in the Salt Lake City area. Well, that wraps up my video about Salt Lake City. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and consider subscribing. Thanks for watching.